Katibu, it's an honor to have you here. Bwana CFO, karibu sana. I want to imagine that you're the leaders of delegation. We shall be having a moment to have an introduction to know who from sector is in the room. Katibu, the business that gets us here is the fact that there are situations that have necessitated for the president not to assent to the Finance Bill 2024-2025. Finance Bill 2024-2025 was seeking to raise additional revenue that would now also be applied in our development and our recurrent. There have been ensuing protests, what has been known as the ensuing Generation Z or Gen Z uprising. And even in that formlessness, and even in that chaos, and even as dark as the cloud would look, I want to imagine that every cloud has a silver lining, so that even with all that is happening, there could be a good take-home that we can take out of this. One of the things that government is being asked to do is to stop the wastage. Government is also being asked to be austere in its use of resources, to avoid excesses. Government is also being asked to work within its means. And so I would imagine that supplementary one of this budget seeks to, one, seek to see that we are stopping the bleeding. Two, to ensure that we are austere in how we utilize public resources. And thirdly, that we are also prudent and accountable for whatever it is that we have. So much so that if you asked me what the silver lining in this cloud is that Kenya has an opportunity to correct a few things, make right a few things, and top to my mind, I see a great opportunity for us to be able to face head-on the issue of corruption, even as we are reforming government. And even as government is being reinstituted, I see another opportunity for Kenya to reward its best, to use meritocracy as a measure for appointment to public office and even election to public office. So that if we were to deal with the twin issues of meritocracy and curbing corruption, then would be well on our way to be the next Indonesia or any of the other rising eastern tigers who rose by just slaying corruption and rewarding meritocracy, or having meritocracy as the requirement to be in government. Now, other things have happened after that, and one of the key issues is something that we have been engaging Treasury earlier on this morning. We have a representative from Treasury, Mr. Kipchumba, is right at the corner there. And this committee has also raised the issue of how Treasury is engaging ministry departments and agencies before they present to us these ceilings. And I want to imagine that you are also not consulted before these cuts happen. That's an issue we are taking up with Treasury. The second issue that we are taking up with Treasury is the fact that Kenya cannot continue to budget in the same way that it has budgeted for 60 years. In such a way that whatever was a big ministry in 1963 is today still being considered a big ministry. So that the capital infrastructure sensitive or intensive sectors have continually gotten an inordinately higher percentage of our budget, not considering the changes that have happened in this republic for the last 63 years, not considering the emerging issues, not considering even issues like which ones are being raised about the youth bulge in this country. And our sector is one such critical sector that could be able to mitigate some of these issues that we have on youth engagement and getting youth resourced in the right way so that they can be productive in this country. On that same issue, this ministry, and especially your department, has only one core business: communication. So when Treasury says that they are cutting budgets across government, and they say that the key issue that they are going to cut out is, number one, communication, and they go ahead and cut communication in the Ministry of, in the Department of Telecommunication and Broadcasting, means that they are cutting out everything, because your core business is actually communication. So there is no way you can cut all the communication budget in the ministry, and especially the Department of Broadcasting and Telecommunication. So that is what brings us here. And Katibu, I want to first thank you, because I know I got you out from a meeting. Katibu was scheduled for a later appointment. He was magnanimous enough when time allowed to see us at this point. Why, Katibu, we are concerned to see this quickly is because we all know what business is ahead of us. So I would want to invite you to now let us know who is in the room from your team. And even as you're doing that, actually you can do the introductions, and then I will direct how we will go into the presentation. Karibu, Katibu. Interested in formulating supplementary one budget for you, and to make it easier for you, we only want to hear three things. One, we want you to point out where the cuts are. Two, we want you to tell us what the cuts would mean to your sector. And three, we would want for you to rationalize this budget for the committee. And the rationalization is in this way. If it so happens that there cannot be any more money accorded to this department, what are those key priority areas that you must prioritize within the means that are provided for? What are those projects that are so critical that they must be undertaken in the next 1 year? Then you shall also tell us whatever you think can go to your wish list, if there was ever going to be any wish list. So think of it in terms of what has been allocated to the sector and what we are able to do within the means provided. If you do that for us, Katibu, we will be well on our way to assisting you as we present to Parliament through the Budgets and Appropriation Committee. So to structure your presentation, what you can do, Katibu, is you can give us the global picture. You can go to the chart that has the global picture, talking about all the monies in your department. Then you can take us through a table on the recurrent, and then you can take us to the table on development. And those three presentations would actually have covered what we need to know today. So, Katibu, this can even be 15 minutes, at most maybe 30 minutes if you have too much to say, and then we will have done the business for today. The global picture, what is provided for in recurrent, what is provided for in your projects, and the impact of each. So as you're going through each item on your table, you can say that there is a deduction on KBC. This is what it means. There is a deduction on Studio Mashinani. This is what it means. That would form the entire presentation. So kindly take us to the global picture, the recurrent vote, and the development vote. Those would be the three slides that these members are keen on listening into. Karibu, Katibu.
Thank you very much for highlighting the issue of treasury vis-a-vis ministries, and the fact that we have spent a lot of time discussing these issues, and I think this committee knows about our concerns as ministries. And I'm happy that you are now engaging Treasury to move away from the tradition of budgeting so that they capture the current reality and allocate resources in areas that really require most attention. So I am hopeful that the discussion will bear fruit so that we move away. And I think also the fact that Parliament has recently been moving towards the accrual budgeting strategy so that projects which have been given money are completed. So this thinking from Parliament is welcome in our ministry, and I hope, as you rightly put it, in the end, even when we have a crisis, we probably have a huge opportunity to redirect our thinking in our country so that we do things the correct way. So having said that, and I realizing, I don't know whether it's me feeling like there is tear gas going into my... There's something which has been choking me, so maybe it was hiding under the tables, so it has come out. So generally, what I would just say, because we have received the relevant documentation and acted on them, before I give my CFO to take us through the details, if you look at the page 6, I think, of the document, I don't know how it's reading on your computers, on the supplementary budget number 1 for year 2024-25, the summary that the chairman you have asked for is there, that the recurrent budget has been cut by 47 million. And you can see that the approved budget was about 5.4, but because of that cut, we are now at 5.3 B. Then the development budget had approved 651 million 900, but now in the supplementary estimates, the development budget is 0. So the variance there is that it's 100% cut, which is, and it's coming against the backdrop of real struggle, because even what we called the recurring budget was not enough. Even the 651 for development budget was not enough. And as you remember, when we did the discussion on the financial statement, we even pointed out that some of the money that had been allocated for development was never dispersed from the exchequer. So the figures don't tell the whole story. In fact, maybe only 30% or less was realized. So now it is 0. So overall, what has been cut out of the overall budget, therefore, if you look at that figure, 5.4 under 651, approved estimates was 6.061, that is over 6 billion. Now with the cut, through the supplementary budget, we have 5.362 B, and so the variance in terms of cut is 699, so shy of 700 million out of our budget. So that summarizes the situation with our budget. And so I will therefore now welcome the CFO to take the shortest time to just take you through the 3 questions you asked. What gaps? What are the gaps now? Of course, in my statement, the gaps are already implied. Then what do they mean to us? Maybe if it doesn't do it very well, I'll come back to it shortly to just chip in. Then how best can we rationalize this if there's no other money? And so what would be the priority areas? Unfortunately, priority areas, which is communication, is already hit very hard. So let me welcome, with your permission, Chair, CFO, to take us through this in the shortest time possible.
Okay, thank you, Chair. Thank you, PS. I'll quickly take you to number 2. just the detail on the programs that are affected. General administration, that's in the headquarters. We have a reduction, a budget of 2.1 million. It was reduced by 20 million, so we have 210 million. Information and communication, supplies. Success, we have a budget of 5.4, 4.9 million allocated, billion, a reduction of 473 million in that program. And then we have the third program, mass media skills development, where we have a budget of 421. It has gone down to 216 million. Now we have a reduction of 205 million. Here I will quickly take you to the next page, which has the items.
For us, the page number.
Page number is 8.
The current budget.
The current budget, yes. Page 8. Page 8, under personnel emoluments, there is no change. Where we had a change is on prestatos, on operational expenses, where we had a short. The next page now.
Is it a shortfall or a reduction? Are we looking at the supplementary ceiling?
There is reduction of 7 million.
Page 8 on our Shakir. The pages, you shall find them inside the square. At the bottom right of the square.
I'm blind actually, sorry.
Walimu atakusaidia.
Sorry. I just had cataract, so
You will see a title on a slide, the current budget. Yes.
So the reduction of 7 million is carry on operation. And the next slide will see the items that are affected.
Tell us what will happen if this can't change policy.
What will happen is that we will not achieve our mandate, for example, on communication sometimes. That's on our officers moving the field or they are officers in the field. The budget for communications will reduce. The budget for domestic travel. That means we cannot move from one place to another to for the information. And that means that we will not be able to upgrade what we call the next level.
It speaks to your core mandate.
Yeah, these are core mandate. The items here, the 47 million, these items which are being affected are our core mandate because we need more on communication, on domestic travel, on training. So that means that the 47 million is separate from our core mandate. That means our field officers, the training officers will not be able to move and get information. Then here, I'm going to move to the next page, where we have the government report. And we see the projects that are affected. Government report, where we have a total budget of 61.9 million and has been reduced seriously. We have indicated all the projects that we are implementing that financial year. Coming to this one now, we have 0. What means that all these projects have to be suspended. There will be a lot of training fees, taking ourselves to court. And now we have our mass communication, for instance, in their adult campus, they have restricted all them. They have a fixed order. That means that we will not get to go over the training classes here. KPC, they are commanded on broadcasting translation, so that that means that they are affected. Yeah. Then I will quickly take you to the stage on number 4, which has impact. That's on page 17. The impact of the budget cuts. Number 4, on page 17, where we have calculated the effects in the headquarters. Our all civil and social forms will be affected. because all the money that we are earmarked for all these in terms of getting information, that is slowed down. Also, implementation of the new structure, which is what approved by the Commission. We are not going to do that or be affected because there's no additional funding for that. Funding of the Kenya News Agency, that's our people in the field. We are in this program for organization for Kenya offices, in terms of equipment, in terms of infrastructure. That means we will be affected. And also our communication, in terms of technical communication, use of media monitoring, will also be affected. We now go to the next page, which is page 18. The impact of rationalization of budget on MCK performance targets. Page 18. Under MCK, the budget cuts will lead to job losses for the media monitors. Its contribution of media monitoring and exposure of harmful content to minors and obstruction of progressive media content, which is a reason for tensions in the country due to the growth of all kinds of judgment costs. Also, training of journalists and professional aid to be affected. Those, as we know, MCK was the affected with reducing almost half. And also, organization of the tax apps will discontinue. On Kenya Yearbook, the same page, there would be inability to pay crypto grant. Board of Directors, Inspectors, Contractor Services. Here, the Yearbook, the money they have is not enough for parents. They are even for insurance, the state of cover. So it's an issue which is and also they don't be able to delay that because that they want the money to what they make on the next page here, which is page 19. Page 19 on KMC, that's the Instrument Communication, where we have budget cuts will affect ongoing curriculum review and government. They will not be able to use their program because even the money they were supposed to give last year, they were not given for that. They had to give the money for 1 million to the price that there was no option. Also, in terms of expansion of skills-based development of capacity, here they will not be able to use their core mandate. Automation of the academic services will not be free. Even will not be able to raise their own targets. Because the money they were asking for was unable to get in there and then get out of the state of our time. But now, lack of this money, there's a problem. Also, under KMC, they have reduced the SRC. And also there will be acceleration of project costs and also delay of youth capacity in communication, performance, and youth arts. So, all these projects under KMC will affect our youth while doing training towards improvement. Then here, the next page is on APC, Matares. Here, under APC, there will be great upgrading of broadcast infrastructure and storage. Projects such as analog to digital migration, median wave to FM migration, 100,000 broadcasting plan, document of solar system, and including Kisiang'ani will be affected. And also there will be reduced national coverage due to all infrastructure, starting to go for it. The ability to come broadcast content across TV, radio, and online platforms. And also increase payment fees. All those will affect our KTC. That's the funding or the beginning of KTC will be affected. We will move the next page here on the impact of budget PCK. Under FOSTA, it will affect marketing of new products and services, i.e. e-payment solutions, clearing warehouse taxes as proposed by the PCK, and paying number of then there will be decrease of man of the solution given the proposed measure. Affect operations given the fact that most of operation is not fully automated. Thank you. Then we go to the next page. Here on the impacts of the last year's budgets to CA. We have 5 projects here which are ongoing, performed by CA, but due to reduced budgets, these projects must be scaled down or be suspended. The 5 projects there.
Page 22, members.
Yes. We have voice infrastructure projects. Number 2, digital superhighway projects, national addressing systems, device management systems, centers of excellence, and cybersecurity projects. All these projects here will be affected. And the effect of this is that our youths will not be employed because they were targeting the youth people. Here, I'll quickly take you to budget shortfalls. Maybe before I take you to budget shortfalls here, I will quickly take you to slide number 6 on our implementation status. Page 24. Status of our budget implementation for last financial year. Here, if you look at this, at the current nets, we are 93%. That means all the extra we got, we utilize it. Under development, that's where we are less, 5.6 million. We were given exchequer of 151 million. That means we did not get exchequer. Even on development share, on recurrent, we never got exchequer of around 3 or 6 million on recurrent. And development share, we did not get exchequer of almost 360 or around 400 million. That means here, as we talk, we have pending fees for our parastatals, as we did not get exchequer and they are committed the budget. Then, sir, quickly, I will take you to our shortfall of the wish list. The wish list on our budget shortfall, that's on page 26, where we have a shortfall on priorities. When we look at our priorities, that's the bare minimum. We are talking a budget of 878 million. That's based that if we have to nationalize and our bare minimum, and we have the next slide on the activities or projects that we feel if there's any savings, we need to or will request that will be funded. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Chair. I hope we have not taken too long, but just a big observation in this regard to emphasize that we have been a victim of exchequer cards. As a committee, when you retreat and you think about this, when we had a crisis of the streets, everybody saying, where is communication? So the first thing is to crucify the communication team that has no vehicles, communication team which cannot meet and do content, can't train. The communication team that is largely sometimes not engaged properly in ministries because other people are coming to do the job. So, I wish the same shout about where is communication was also used to say, this is money for communication. Then the shout can land on something. When now you say, including Treasury, because the finance bill came from Treasury, somebody confronted me on the streets, Chair, to say, why are you not communicating about Treasury? The leading communicator was Treasury itself, because that is its bill. You remember when there was a problem with the newspapers over the issue of advertisement, I called a press conference and I communicated because it's something which was under us. So before our members communicate, they need to be supplied with information on how to communicate. Because if we quarrel with, we say something that the Treasury doesn't like, we can land into problems. We need what was the message? Because we would even pick that message from the newspapers, from Treasury, or we would pick the message from the media as they go there. Then we amplify it, but we didn't have that opportunity. So the same shout that people employ when they see there's a hitch should be the same shout with which they say, let us allocate this department money to do the things. If you look at some of the things we have seen on media lately, Mr. Chair, as you retrieve, consider the question of what we're talking about building skills. We need to put up our own platforms like Line, the ones you see in Japan. China has its own platforms. Away from Google, away from Facebook, where these guys are using Facebook and the platforms we feed into in order to transact our financial services and then getting all our details. We need to find a way of getting this in place. They're using trackers like AI to check what Chairman does during the day and what does he do during the night. These are things that we can check on, but we need to build a robust structure. His Excellency the President has already pointed out to some people doing things here, and there are foreign firms that are doing wrong things. Now that is an indication that they have taken charge of our communication system and they are doing things they want. So until we build capacity at our end, we can't be safe. So we need a massive investment in this area to make our country better. Because the lack of this massive investment, you see, we do very well. Government has done great things, and you know it. The President has done very many big things. But in the face of an inferior communication network, these things are turned into zero, and nobody sees them. So there's a case for us to make to Treasury as they change their budgeting system, and also there's a case to make for Parliament to rethink. You can do so much, but without communication, there's nothing. And I've been giving the example repeatedly, Mr. Chairman, as I conclude, on Coca-Cola. And I said that there's no medical doctor, when you fall sick, who would recommend that when you feel a little better, drink Coca-Cola. There's no medical doctor who has done that. You are fallen sick, we are all fallen sick. Which doctor has ever said, mpatie soda? There's no medical doctor. because we are in Parliament and I have some privilege, I wish you donate it to me. The greatest fraud in the world is Coca-Cola. That's the greatest fraud. But just this ending year, Coca-Cola had invested $36 billion in marketing. Marketing a fraud. Kenya is not marketing a fraud. It's marketing real things. But with zero budget, Coca-Cola, which is a fraud, looks better. I rest my case.
Members, Katibu has kept it within the timelines, and I'd want for him to engage with members now. And Katibu, as you're taking these questions, also consider what we have asked. This committee has only so much latitude. So you can help us by also telling us that within what you have, you can do certain realignments to cover the priority areas. And we can say that this is the 1 year where you're not able to take up everything you planned to do, but you've got priority ones that you must, so that we're able to take them. The Honorable Kimayo, your hand was up first, and I think we can go down the table in that order. So, Honorable Member for KU.
Thank you, PS and your team. My question is about CA, Communications Authority. Earlier on, we had the PS for ICT. And we had a lot of questions on the issue of digital apps and constituency innovation apps across the country, and the issue of the digital superhighway. And in their budget estimates, that has been removed. We pressed the PS, and the PS said we'll work our way around Communication Authority. Communication Authority is now coming here telling us we don't have any money. Actually, this document is crying, saying we don't have any money. So who is fooling who? Number two, initially, CA, we didn't have anything when you're presenting the budget to us for CA. There was nothing that you are presenting to us because to others, they don't depend on the exchequer. Today, you are telling us you're not going to do A, B, C, D because we don't have the money. So which is which? The previous document before which we passed for the budget, there was no line for CA budget as a budget item because you told us CA don't depend on the treasury, on the exchequer. Today, CA is coming and saying, if we do the budget rationalization, we will lose A, B, C, D. So I need clarification.
Yeah. Thank you, Honorable Kimayo. The CA budget, as you know, they don't take money from the exchequer. They don't. But through government authorization of the use of universal fund on official request, they can release that money to us. But a directive was given to each parastatal to reduce expenditure. Remember the 30%. So which means that the money that you're not using is surrendered to Treasury. So if they, in their own internal arrangement, they have an A&A, which they use to, because they collect money from licenses and other areas, they have to operate between the budget guidelines of government they can't overspend beyond the regulated bar. So that money will be surrendered to Treasury. So that's the reason why we're talking about the fact that they cannot just stand and say, all the money we make, we're going to spend it the way we want, 100%. There is a guideline, and those acts have been given through a circular. So they will not have a leeway to use all the money, even if they correct it, to come back to Treasury. Then the second thing is the development of digital hubs, and as you remember, under the current arrangement in the ministry, the ICT department doesn't have as much resources as the BT because of CA. So sometimes they come to BT to ask for resources. For example, you remember the 5+ billion shillings that we asked to do the initial stage, phase 1 of the fiber optic. It came from the Universal Service Fund. And just recently, 2.8 again has been released from the Universal Service Fund to ensure that we start pushing the fiber using the power lines, through Kenya Power. That money is doing business in the ICT State Department, but it comes from broadcasting. So special permission was given on that account. So I suspect that Engineer Tanui, in his explanation, that they will see how to go around with CA. I think he's hoping that we shall argue the case for him to restore the cuts on CA with regard to ANA, and also raid the Universal Service Fund, get permission to get more money from Service Fund to help him run. So what he didn't tell you is that probably he's depending on our oxygen, and if we don't withdraw the oxygen, he can run. I suspect that is what he was talking about. I'm not in his mind. Thank you very much, Chair.
If that is the case, is it possible that this committee can be furnished with the CA budget so that we can scrutinize?
Mr. Chairman, the CA budget is available. If you give us a few moments, we take a retreat, we can give you the CA budget, because even the CA budget is usually submitted to Treasury for approval through our ministry. So Treasury, they told me the Treasury person is here, they have the CA budget, so we can avail the latest one, the revised ones to you.
The reason why I ask these questions is because, on one hand, you as the department who is in charge of CA, you are telling us we are not able to do ABCD because our budget will be reduced. The other department, which is your brother on the other side, is saying, don't worry, we'll be able to talk to you, we'll get some money. And this document also we don't have. So we don't know how much you are giving on the other hand. And so we need to be clear on this, so that I know how much the ICT department is getting from CA, so that it's not surrounded in secrecy. We don't know how much.
Yes. I think the bottom line is, you remember we released the first 7 billion. The one for the phase 1 of digitization, where we're digging the trenches. And then after some time to realize, we migrated into the power lines, and about 7 billion was appropriated to be used from the Universal Service Fund. But around the time we wanted the money released from the Universal Service Fund, I think members know, we had a lot of push and pull from the IMF. So we decided that we can only give up to about 3.8, where about a quarter of it going to digitization, another one doing the hubs. I mean, the movement of the fiber, and then another one, the hubs. So and in the hubs, even postal corporation and the Konza were involved, and we were going to use the post places to do that. The offices, the spaces which were not working, which were not occupied. So in general, without going into specifics, I think the money that University Service Fund is going to spend on the ICT is about 12 billion. I think so. About 12 billion. So, but I can give the details, but that is the position. On the first digitization program, which was running the wire down the underground, and the second one, which is going to run the wire along the power lines, plus the hubs that will be set up in excellent places like post office and the administrative units. So it's about 12 billion, but I can give you the details.
Finally, Chair, it's on the same issue of Our Excellency the President has been accused by some section of Kenyans.
A point of order. I don't think this is relevant in this committee. No, it isn't. I really do feel
Allow me to ask
No,
my
point
question.
of-
You will
point
have
of-
your time to ask
No
your question.
point of
Honorable
order.
Shakil, you're out of order.
It is.
I am presiding over this, and he's correctly in order. So, Honorable Shakil, hold your horses. We're coming.
No, but you see, we are now.
He
we are
has
now
not
going
even
beyond-
asked his question.
We
You
are
don't know
going.
what the question is.
That question was asked earlier. I'm trying to help him. This committee needs to be independent of any particular executive authority, other than the committee that is our mandate. Let us not confuse two issues. Yes, let's not confuse. That is where Gen Z has been making a mockery out of this out of this parliament. If the member of parliament continues to do this, they'll make a mockery out of us. Let us not do that. We have more dignified ways of sorting this out.
Honorable Shakil, you're out of order. A pronouncement by the head of state that is out of a Marshall Plan is something that this committee would oversight. If the head of state goes out there and pronounces himself on this Kenya Digital Superhighway project and makes a proclamation out there, this committee is mandated to oversight over such. So if such a proclamation is made and is not delivered on, and the president is called out on such a proclamation, this committee is very well in its place to inquire into that proclamation. So, Honorable Gideon Kimai, kindly.
Thank you for the protection, Chair. The three arms of government work together: judiciary, executive, and parliament. They're all arms of government. My question was, His Excellency the President has pronounced himself severally, including yesterday when he was in Kuresoi, that digital labs will be constructed in every ward in this country, the 1450. And there will be a constituency innovation hub, I think in all the 47 counties. Here in your document, you're telling us there will be a delay or there will be a problem with that program because CA don't have the money. Before the problems, when these issues of Gen Z came up, some sections of Kenyans have accused the Excellency of the President that he's lying. So, do you want me to sit here and the President has made some pronunciations and the budget that will do those ICD apps will come from this committee, from this department? Can you assure us and assure Kenyans through Communications Authority that the program of digital apps, constituency innovation apps, as pronounced by the President, will not be affected by this budget, supplementary budget?
This is my...
Madam Chair, a point of order. This is not a discussion between Kimaiyo and the PS. And these are supplementary questions, which I think they need to come later, unless you want to make it between.
Just hold on. What I did, Honorable Kivasu, seeing the quorum we have, I allowed for any member to either go for a quick fire or collective. So he requested to be able to engage, which is also progressive for this committee. When you get your chance, you will decide on whether to engage.
We can't go that way. If we go that way, then we are going to waste all the time. I cannot be engaging the PS alone all through until I'm satisfied. We need to pass our questions.
Okay, kindly,
the PS
can we ask in
and
your,
then any supplementary question can be
Mheshimiwa
put
Kimaio, you're
across.
done?
Chair,
Yeah.
we are all members of parliament.
Don't prosecute on that matter. Are you done with your
Just
question?
hold on, Chair. Nobody in this committee, except the chair, or the people who elected me, the Keio South constituency people, can stop me from asking questions related to what touches on Kenyans. So
Gideon, I've already made a ruling on this.
I am on track.
No, before I proceed, it's good for you to guide. If the, as my opinion, if the Khatib is willing and ready to take all the questions, respond, and then if the member asks is not satisfied to come again, it's going to be right. If we fire one and one, then we have one procedure for any member to complain. That's my suggestion before I ask questions.
Which format do you want to go with? The next one.
No, me, I will ask the last one.
Okay.
Yeah. But Kivas is concerned, and Kimayo, let's harmonize. Chair, can Katibu, can we have few? Let's have remember exhaust these questions. Then Katibu, yes.
So, because, Katibu,
Just hold on, Katibu. This is for the committee to make a decision. Mheshimiwa Kibasi, you want to place your question?
Yes.
With the others?
All of them. And then I wait for the others to put their questions and I wait for my answers later.
That works perfectly. Okay.
3 questions. One, Bwana PS, the operational maintenance, which has a reduction of 47 million. The CFO talked about this being, he talked about the field officers not able to move. But when I go to the next table, I only see reductions of 2050 and the like. It's only 2 items which have been reduced to 0, and that is membership fees and subscriptions, and then purchase of vehicles and other transport equipment. How are these 2 items going to hinder movements of the officers? Number 2, when you look at the initial table, on supplementary budget, the development is cut to 0. And the development runs across several items, but I'm more concerned with one item, the KBC analog to digital TV migration. This item has been there for many years. With the current technology, when we say we are still not moving, that is the purpose of how we are supposed to be moving with the KBC. While I appreciate it has been cut to 0, I would like to hear from the PS, what are you planning to do to safeguard on this particular item? Number 3, while we see their budget cuts all across, I'm just wondering because I've not seen anywhere where you are talking about the A in A. And with the A in A, how much are you raising and where are you putting it? Is there any place you can cushion with the appropriation in aid? Thank you.
Chair, thank you on PS. Actually, I was hopeful that you would say what you did. And I did tell this committee that when the PS Kisiang'ani comes on, professor comes, he will put it in the perspective that I have been trying to put. Firstly, the document that we have in front of me has gone sector by sector, which is the way you do normally. Prof, in abnormal circumstances, you have a setback proposal, which may not work on sector. The first important issue, Mr. Chair, is communication. Second is communication. Third is communication, as far as this committee is concerned. When we come to KBC, and you rightly said, they haven't even got a vehicle or even a motorcycle to go and pursue for the information. There was a time when a chair used to listen to KBC religiously. KBC is the only communication hub that will give you information that you can believe at least has the priority of the government and the viewpoint of the government or of the people. BBC, we listen to it regularly. When BBC says that there is A, B, and C, you believe A, B, B, C. You put ITV and they say it's C and D, you go back to BBC. BBC 1 nasema nini, BBC 2 anasema nini. The situation we have here, Mr. Chair, is our strengths are not captured and we are allowing our blood to be taken out. Whether the communication authority has universal funds, we know it's been misused. Those are the corruption funds used for corrupt activities, and that is where even the former chair has just been now made, and he was the one who actually found out these things. So what I'm trying to ask you, Bwana PS, is this. Can we redo your priorities based upon communication, with the priority being KBC and some of the other issues, and say what is required to do KBC? We have pensions, huge problem. We have budget cuts. So what are we going to do? Now, Bwana PS and Chair, in our home, when we are doing a budget, even Bwana Kimayu will do this, or his wife will if he don't want. We will say that, listen, this is the money we have, and it's not going to be enough. But niko na shamba huko Voi, we don't need. Niko na shamba huko pale, it's no use to us when we are starving right now and we are going to die. So I think, Mr. PS, firstly, put out your minimum irreducible items for KBC to operate, at least one, the way it is, without going into what is called development budgets, without going, even if it is analog, let's work on analog. If it is digital, let's look at digital. Then we put down what it is to require, what we call survival mode. You know, that survival mode. When your battery is down, you put it to survival mode. What do we need on survival mode? And also put into financial terms or consideration. We have a piece in Migori of land worth 2 billion shillings, which somebody is trying to steal from us. We are prepared to sell it to you for $500 million. Chukua, give us the money. We have a piece of land here, it is worth so much. We have a piece of land here, it is worth so much. And you bring it to the committee and say, listen, as much as Parliament is reducing our budget, we have some assets somewhere. Ninaweza kutumia. And this is how we can work this one out. And finally, Mr. Chair, through you, help us to keep KBC alive. There is a case sitting in UK or wherever. It has been pressed. Let us work on that. Bring that to us, that way we have made some deals through unscrupulous people. Let us go through it like we did Telco. So let us save, Mr. Chair, my sole plea today, it is let us save KBC. Put what we call survival mode and bring it to us, and we fight for that survival mode, whoever we have to take on. Let us put KBC through very simple survival mode. How many motorcycles do we need? How many recording situations we need? Let's not talk about platforms at this moment in time. Let's make sure the 1 o'clock KBC News is on the dot, and the 6 o'clock is there, or 9 o'clock is there, and that we are collecting the information as is required, and that we are able to pay our bills. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
I hope KBC, I pray that KBC is listening in. Now, Katibu, I'd just like for you to answer 2 questions from my end, and these have to do with your presentation. I'm seeing that on page 22 of this presentation, you're saying to us that the cybersecurity projects will be grossly affected, and this has to do with the cybersecurity functions that are undertaken under Communications Authority. And I would like to know if these cybersecurity concerns that you are raising have anything to do with the cybersecurity concerns that are being raised by the ICT and Digital Economy Department, whether they were depending on CA to undertake the cybersecurity reforms and the programs that had been planned for this year. We have seen them earlier in the morning. They had a budget of around 704 million Kenya shillings that was to go into cybersecurity interventions. I want to know if these are separate from what they presented to us, or they have something to do with that. From your presentation on page 6, and which is now what you depend on going forward, it's carried on throughout the entire document, you have captured the proposed reduction on recurrent as 47.1 million. However, this committee, through the Parliamentary Budget Office, is getting the reduction on the recurrent in the treasury books as 48.9 million. So there we have a variance of around, 48.9, 47.1, that's coming to 1.8 million. This variance of 1.8 million, tell us, is it a problem with how you're reporting, or is it a problem with Bwana Kipchumba's place in Treasury, so that we know how to deal with it? Then, in your response, also please carry along this theme that has been introduced by the Honorable Shakil. It's a very critical theme, where he's asking, when we say to Treasury to stop budgeting in the traditional manner, we're also saying to Bwana Mosira, your CFO, and your accounting teams in the other agencies, you also need to stop budgeting in traditional ways. So what the Honorable Shakil is asking is, if we found that there is no maneuver room, and this is what is provided for, and these ceilings are set in stone, what will your State Department decide to do and complete in the next financial year strategically, knowing that if you spread too thin in this financial year, you will end up achieving nothing? And you might end up in a situation where, yes, you get the recurrent, and for a whole year, government officers do nothing because there is no development budget, do nothing other than receive salaries. The other theme that was brought up is a theme that the Honorable Kimayo was raising, and it has to do with government pronouncements against what is the reality on the ground, which could lead the government to be said to be a liar, because the pronouncements are being made, but the line officers who should be undertaking the projects that are being pronounced do not have them in their plans. So will we end up in a situation where it is communicated by the minister or the president or any other player in the government that this is a project that is going to be undertaken this year, but it is nowhere in our budgets? So those two things you need to talk to them very variably. And finally, you can say to this committee, what the outlook, the general outlook is. If there is no maneuver space that we get from Treasury, then you can charge this committee, commission this committee to do something. Tell us what you would want this committee to do for you, so that we don't have a sector of communication that is not performing.
Yes. Thank you, Chair. Our presentation will be, there are certain detailed information which will be done by CFO, but I want to just quickly take a few minutes to highlight some of the general issues that you have raised. I just want to go back to the issue of CEO. The point is that when we say that there will be a reduction in spending, it's not that that reduction means nothing will happen on the ground with regards to construction of hubs and so on. If you remember the manifesto of the government, the projection was that government would do this digitization, take up the 52% of the total. And then other players would take 48. So what is going to be affected is basically the government aspect, where it has to raise revenue to put up the hubs. And it is within the manifesto. So the 48% which is being done, some of the digitization and the hubs will be done through different agencies such as the Kenya Digital Acceleration Program and the World Bank. They are doing that and it is going on. So when we think about exchequer support, because that's where government is going to do it, there will be reduction and it affects that docket of government, the portion that is 52%. So basically when the head of state announces that the projection, the processes will go on, he's perfectly right and he's saying the truth, because the 48% is on course because we have signed a lot of agreements with them, but the exchequer support will be reduced a little bit. But that does not mean that the project will not go ahead.
I think we might want to repeat that so that you're on record.
I'm on record.
Are you assuring the public
Yes.
that the pronouncements being made out there, and specifically the pronouncement on the digital innovation hubs,
Yes.
that project is on course, because this is a project that not only leapfrogs Kenya in its journey on digitization, but it is also a core project for this demographic that is called the youth.
Yes.
So that over and above being engaged in things like kazi mtaani, kusafisha mitaro, yeah, our young people can even get more respectable engagements, and the digital innovation hubs, online jobs, and BPO are some of the most respectable jobs that government can give to these young people to help them with their digital literacy and to also help them earn. So is your assurance that the digital innovation hubs project under the Kenya Superhighway Digital Project is on course?
Let me tell you, I want to assure you, this project is core to the president's agenda, to the government's agenda. It cannot collapse. So the question of lies doesn't come. I have to reiterate, and I should go on record, the digitization process will go on, and it is already going on. The only thing we have is that where there is exchequer support for digitization in view of the cuts we are having, the exchequer support will have to be reduced a little bit. And that covers the 52% obligation that is in the manifesto, but it does not in any way affect the 48% obligation by our development partners. In the recent past, when the president even started pushing for us to push the fiber optic facility through the Kenya Power, we were going to achieve that in less than 2 years as opposed to 5 years, because there's no digging anymore. So nobody should go out there and say that the government has cheated on this. The government is not cheating on it. There will be a slow, and and you can see, Mr. Chairman, I'm doing it scientifically. 48, 52%. So which part is affected? It is the 52% because we have to raise that revenue locally, but the 48% will go on. So I assure the committee that the program will go on, only that because we have to raise our money from our side of the exchequer, we would slightly take a lot longer than even 2 years to complete the project, but the project will go on. And I think, Honorable Kibayo, you are assured that the project will go on. The second thing that I want to address is the issue of budgeting. We should not budget traditionally. Actually, I agree, Honorable Shakil, we shouldn't. And we have been trying our best. But if you remember, when you start budgeting, we have this envelope of business which comes. There is an envelope that comes which clusters ministries under certain domain. And they tell you that this is all the money you have, so you should start fitting it into particular dockets. So that constricts our operation. We are not free to do it as we please. But now, when they do that, Treasury also usually issues guidelines under certain headings on how to budget. So it doesn't give us a lot of space for us to even rethink about the items or change the order or even introduce new items there. But if they can allow us to do that, and with your support from Parliament, we can explode. And we can explode with the new suggestions on what to do. So it is the nature, because we are controlled by what comes out of Treasury, that is what makes us not operate freely, because we don't have a lot of space on what heading to deal with or even introduce. So as soon as that go-ahead is given, we shall move away from the traditional and even embrace the postmodern ways of budgeting. I think we can do that. Then, so I have addressed the question of government pronouncements. I think that's what I can't go. I can't go there. But there was something before I ask my CFO to say. There was something very, very binding on CA. The CA, because the question is that on one hand they are not they are supporting, they have no money. We're saying they have no money, but they are supposed to support. On the other hand, another group. You see, CA. I think the Universal Service Fund has been a subject of discussion across the board, and you know that that can be straightened by Parliament. We have made some proposals on what should be done, even through the sector working group on the Universal Service Fund. I think the point is to make sure that it is perfected and it serves purpose for which it was established. But one of the weaknesses that we find with the CA, initially the funding of USF fund was confined to about 19 counties. And you know, those 19 counties fell into what looked like an outdated definition of marginalized areas. But increasingly now, government and every stakeholder is seeing that CA needs to spend more money even in other places, because even if the area is accessible with the roads, but has no access to digital facilities, it is still underserved. So this thinking is now making it impossible for us to use the Universal Service Fund as it is constituted to cover the whole country. So there has to be a way to think around it and see how best can we do that to improve the Universal Service Fund. So there is quite some work which can be done around CA, but what I want to finish with regard to CA is the question of cyber security, which has been mentioned. Who is doing it? Sometimes they come here, they are saying they're talking about it, and then is it the same work as what ICT is doing? It is a consolidated. They have a part to play. There is a NC4. There is a team in India which deals with the cyber security, and there is also a team at CA which deals with it. Now, and the defense. So, but when you look at the capacity in terms of the fiscal infrastructure and the expertise, there's no place in this country that has the capacity as CA. Even when you get into the rooms monitoring the security rooms monitoring the number of attacks that are coming geared at attacking systems in Kenya. Sometimes you can get 10,000 coming in a second. That facility doesn't exist in many places. It is at CA. So CA, in terms of coordination, it has the manpower and the capacity to coordinate other experts within government, either in defense, at DCI, or just generally internal security. So the issue of fighting cyber security is a corporate enterprise. You cannot do it at one point and say you bring so many people at one point. And you can see that if you have, I think, Chairman, you have visited CA. When you get into CA, apart from the administrative units that are there, you will find members of the DCI are there, the defense people are there, the interior people are there. So it is a coordinating platform for fighting cybersecurity in government. So what the ministry is doing through the ICT digital economy is that it joins that, it supplies officers to join that team to coordinate the overall strategy for fighting cyber insecurity in our country. And therefore, the work that they do complement each other, one another. It doesn't conflict. So that's why you see when Engineer Tanui talks about it, he's not saying that they are doing a different thing, but actually we are doing the same thing. But people have certain roles inside there, and you know, since the roles they play, Mr. Chairman, are of security nature. I will not go into the details, but you know some of those roles. Each one has a role that complements the other. Thank you. So on that, I think I will, Honorable Shakil, I think I take your recommendation very, very seriously. We need to think about KBC. A lot of things are going on. The UK case you mentioned about, I think government is going to defend. The whole committee needs to know for information. The arbitration, the full arbitration is taking place on the 12th, between the 12th and the 22nd of this coming month in London. And the government has already put in measures to defend that case, because if we don't defend it, we shall be slapped by a claim of about 52 billion shillings. But we are going there with a robust team from the Attorney General and ourselves to make sure that we defend our position clearly and make sure that we don't get fined after the arbitrator makes his decisions on the matter. So the matter is going on, but KBC has several assets which it can utilize, as you put it, and it's part of our transformation agenda. And I have to report to this committee that we have already done a CAB memo on transformation for approval. And it has, I think it has already sailed through the Treasury. It is at Treasury. It is at Treasury. Treasury is doing its input, but we think that when it comes out, they'll give us direction. But from our ministry's side, we have done everything we can to make sure that that transformation is done. We have also done another CAB memo, which is, again, lying at the Attorney General's place, I think, Attorney General. And then this one is about the digitization program and the use of assets. We have finished our job from the ministry also, and so we are waiting for other parts to play their role. And once we do that, Mr. Chairman, we hope that that can be done. A lot of entities within government have been asking how they can engage. One of the latest ones which has been requested and which will bring to your attention as soon as the discussions take shape and we are able to tell you something reasonable is the IEBC. The IEBC has been asking, it wants to set up its own headquarters and it doesn't have the land. Initially, there was a proposal at IEBC to buy land at about 500 million. And then we have our land. So we are thinking, if we want to save that money, but we still continue making money out of that enterprise, what kind of engagement can we do with the IEBC? We can give them the land to put up our headquarters, but we have an arrangement for us also to make some money out of it. Maybe we can say they will own the plots, the buildings, and then we own the land and it becomes a lease. This is something that we need to share with Parliament. They have already approached us, and we are discussing that so that we see as one of the ways of using the assets. But there are other assets which are available, and we have a proposal, a comprehensive proposal of commercialization, which is in the CAP memo. And once the relevant authorities look at it, we shall see how they want us to commercialize this. Because even selling the pieces of land takes a long time. The process is big because this is public land, but we have some proposals which can be shared by our ministry to the relevant authorities, including this.
What I would want for you to do, Katibu, also in the interest of time, because I'd wanted us to be closing in the next 8 minutes, was if it is a conceptual matter,
yes.
it is very good that Honorable Shakil brought it up. We had also shared our work plan with you. There are sector engagements that are coming up.
Yes.
And we shall be taking you to task specifically on each one of these issues.
Yes.
So for now, what we are very keen on is to how you can summarize this budget
yes.
supplementary in the next 7 minutes, meaning your presentation and also our closing. So that by 2,
yes.
we will be releasing, that's in the next 7 minutes.
So,
he has an adjoining question.
Mr. Chair, could we ask them to share with us that commercialization proposal? Also ask them to share with us the issue of the court case without giving too much background and everything, so that our opponents don't get any further information, so that we can make ourselves aware. Because you see, there are certain things that came up where one of your CEOs went and signed an agreement with somebody who was outside his powers to do. So could we have those 2 documents, at least for us to be aware of, rather than bring it to us at the end of the arbitration?
I think the committee has a right to, we shall get directions on how you want us to share, because there has been a lot of correspondence between ourselves and the Attorney General. So you just probably, I request that Chair, you write to us so that we officially hand over all the documents, including the correspondence from the...
In fact, they will be coming together with our invites for our engagements.
Yeah.
What Honorable Shakil is asking is to have the committee to even have them before, so that when we are coming to these engagements, we are not seeing them for the first time at that engagement.
Yeah.
So we are tasking the Secretariat to write to you officially with these with the list of what we require.
Yes. So without wasting time, there are some specific things that were asked by Honorable Kebaso on the items and the mandates. So let me just, because we're working within the 7 minutes thing, please try to get through that so that we close.
Thank you. Yes. Chair, there was a question from the member on how the items here can affect, the 2 items could affect the field officers. Yeah, I would like to comment that in the reductions, especially in the items of domestic travel and subsistence, we have a budget of 40 million from the Exchequer, which was reduced to 20. Chair, I wish to comment that we have 47 county officers in the field, plus 26 sub-county offices. And the money that has been reduced, most of it goes to them for domestic travel. So in the reduction actually is basically on those in the field station. The same to communication. This in terms of telephones, they have to make phone call, and this the money which has been reduced. It's basically for those field stations. There was also a question. Yes.
The impact of this thing. Just on that one alone, what would you want to say to this committee? If the reduction is maintained, yes, what would happen?
It will affect the mobility of the field officers to get information and to educate the public on the government agenda. Because the field officers, they have to move from place to place to get information. So affecting this, reducing this budget here by 20 million, will affect the mobility.
I think overall, Chair, I can see what you're asking. This is how it summarizes. We're going to spend a lot of money on the recurrent paying salaries, but the officers are doing nothing. That is the point.
Okay, thank you, Chair. There's another question on KBC analog projects. We had indicated 55 million this financial year to complete the project, because the project is 98% complete. So if we don't get this money, then the budget, the program is still in our books. Chair, there was a question of A&A budgets. A&A basically State Department is from KPC and the GAA for advertising. Chair, I will wish to comment that the budget for KPC and A, part of that money goes for the operations, and even to meet part of salary. The money they get from Exchequer is not enough to meet the salary for the staff. So they have to substitute part of the NA for their salaries and their operations. Here there was also a case of an issue of the budget reduction from yourself, or 47, against 48. Here, this budget was done by Treasury, but from the records we got, which we have here, it is for 7 million, for 7.15. Maybe I will sit with the clerk and harmonize the figures. But I thought I would say that the money we have from our system, the reduction is for 7.105. Unless they did other reductions, but I will harmonize with the clerk. Yeah.
What we will do is just what we are seeing from Treasury, so that we know what these barriers are.
Mr. Chairman, I thought that was something really which touched me. Because if that has to be sorted out so that we know the exact figure, because the money could be surcharged on our account when it has gone somewhere else. So I really thank you for that, for pointing out that. So you, because of time, you asked us to do a wish list. So I've just one wish list. I wish we could have enough money.
It's not anything in addition to the wish list you've given us here. So allow me to finish, and these final questions are not to do with the supplementary. We are in very unprecedented times, and maybe being that you have people who are players in your sector, the fourth estate in the room, maybe you might want to speak to a number of issues so that we go on with these numbers. Katibu, you have all witnessed what is being known as the agency uprising. You've all seen what is being known as the Gen Z uprising. Started out as if it was a matter to do with the finance bill. It has developed into what it is now. And there's one big charge on government. Even Parliament is charging government with this one charge, that even the matter of the finance bill would probably not have gotten as out of hand as it did if government had communicated right. There were young people who were on the streets because they thought the finance bill is going to be increasing the taxes on bread, that it was increasing taxes on sanitary pads, that it was increasing taxes on cooking oil, that it was going to increase taxes on motor vehicles. They were on the streets saying that the finance bill is going to transition freehold land into leasehold land and then tax it. Myself and yourself, and most of the members who are here, know that none of those things were in the Finance Bill 2024. Now, this is communication that never got out there. When the Finance Bill was over and done with, other issues have now developed out of it. But it all started out because, to some extent, government either did not communicate or miscommunicated. So there's a question here about the capability of government to communicate and to communicate right. Could government be speaking in spaces where Kenyans are not and government is not hearing? Or could Kenyans be in places that government is not, so that government is not able to hear what Kenyans are saying? And what is your take as the PS in charge of telecommunication and broadcasting on the issue of government communication? That is one. The second issue is to do with emerging technologies in communication. There are allegations that, yes, there are organic conversations that are happening on the cybersphere. There are some organic conversations, including some of the demands that are being made. Some of them are being made online. So there are some good and constructive conversations that are happening online. But even as the good and constructive conversations are happening, there are also some very unacceptable conversations bordering on total disrespect, bordering on bad manners, and some of them even bordering on security issues and even other matters that might be bigger than that. The question here is, how robust is our whole online conversation infrastructure, even as government facilitates? How well monitored or policed are they, so that we are able to establish what are organic conversations happening online, or whether there could also be infiltration of narratives that are external narratives finding their ways into this national conversation, and even to the extent of introduction of even bots into our national conversation. And this would not be a shocker to Kenya. Kenya was here in 2013 with Cambridge Analytica. We all saw the impact of data analytics on national narratives and conversations. It has happened in the jurisdictions like the US, where it is said there were over 1 million artificial and pseudo accounts that had been driving conversations just in the lead up to the US elections. So what would you assure Kenyans on the robustness of the monitoring of the cyberspace in Kenya? You sitting there as the minister in charge of communication. Those are two questions. Mheshimiwa Kimayu, do you have an adjustment? Okay. You can do that and we shall.
Yes. Thank you, Chair. The government capability is alert and strong. It's not true that that, as people say, that it is not aware of what is happening and it is probably weak. No. We know that there have been conversations, but you know our country is a democracy. So when you are a democracy, there are certain things you don't do, and we haven't done that. Some people write to us saying, okay, close the internet, put off, lock out certain media houses. We said no. And we're not going to do that. Our democracy, Kenya is not a dictatorship, it's a democracy. And that is why the head of state has allowed things to happen like this. Despite the provocations that have come, you know, our head of state has given directions. Even the disrespect you are saying comes on when he entered the X spaces. Some of us have also been in some X spaces. I'm sure you have been. The language is obscene, but we have not considered the option of gagging anybody. In the long run, the public is going to know who is right and who is wrong. In the long run, the public is going to know the danger some of these things pose. In the long run, the public will tell between what a good country should be and what a bad country should be. If you want to become a leader and you either sponsor people's kids to use obscene language, what about when those people take up the reins of power? How would you like them to address you? So, like Bob Marley said, time will tell. Time will tell whether this is the kind of country you want, when people are abusing the head of state or ministers. We can have criticism. We accept when people correct government. That is the constitution. But when you even disagree with people, you do it with some decorum. That is where our strength is as a democracy, and the fact that we are doing this is commendable. So, we know there are emerging technologies. Some of these technologies pose a threat to security, they pose a threat to even family, they pose a threat to leaders, a social order. We are not about to advocate for a chaotic republic. We want an orderly democracy, an orderly republic, where people can go about, disagree, but still go about their own businesses. So, when you see these things coming up and people are using the infiltration can be there, but the challenge that Kenya faces today is not a challenge that is unique to Kenya alone. As you quickly pointed out, around the US elections in 2016, we had similar things. In fact, that is the first time we had that there were some bots which were being used with a Russian connection to even manipulate, because the bots actually can tell their own story in that space. They were even manipulating the US elections, we were told. Some claims were not authenticated. But the way out of this is to allow the Republic also to reflect whether this is the direction we really want to go. And I think a lot of people are thinking, you have seen, a lot of people have started giving different statements. Was it about the finance bill? It wasn't. If you say we may not have communicated well, I think my brother, I refer to the Constitution of the United States, and the preamble talks about in order to achieve a more perfect union. Even the most developed democracies have not achieved a more perfect union. In our communication, we haven't achieved a more perfect communication tool. The whole world is grappling, especially in the organized spaces of nations. They haven't achieved a more perfect way of doing things. We have not achieved a more perfect economic system, a more perfect political system. Humanity is fighting to achieve that. That is our ultimate goal. So the hitches we have had in our communication here and there are normal with every country, and they do not form a basis to say that communication in Kenya has failed. No, they just make us to try and achieve a more perfect communication tool. And that's where we are. So the assurance I give to the entire Republic as the PS for telecommunication and broadcasting is that we can do better, and always that is our goal, to do better. This is an opportunity for us to even improve across government. It's not an opportunity to apportion blame. We can do better because we love our republic, we love our country, and we are a member of the community of nations across, and this community of nations want order. They don't want disorder. That is what I can tell you for now. Thank you.
Katibu, you have a whole team of members of your department, but unlike other situations where we have allowed them to make their presentations, on this supplementary one, the committee agreed in the morning that we will have the team leaders lead the effort. So allow me to ask if there is any word that any of the members of your department would want to put in. If not,